Now back to the Dana Barrett Show here on WGST.
So, of course, last night was the big game. It was sort of like watching paint dry. But it happened. There was a Super Bowl, I think, and there was a halftime show, kind of. And there were some commercials, too. And we are going to break all of that down for you right now. We're going to focus in particular on the commercial. Steve Mast is joining us on the phone. He is the president and chief information officer at Methodify. Steve, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm actually super well rested after my big long nap watching that game last night.
Exactly. Yeah, I was pretty chilled out. I was pretty relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were some great ads as well.
Well, okay, so first of all, were you rooting for one team or the other?
I was. I'm not usually an underdog guy. I kind of wanted to see Brady take home the 6th Super Bowl, so I definitely was looking for the Pats to win for sure.
It's so funny because I was at a Super Bowl party for about the first half of it, and I was at the home of a friend of mine who is a huge Patriots fan. And so I had no choice but to root for the Patriots, but there was a little part of me that wanted the underdog just because I love an underdog.
Yeah, my party last night was, I would say I was in the minority. It was pretty much so, I think it was 50 of us, and there was probably 2 of us in the corner that were Pats fans, and everybody else was looking for the Rams to win for sure.
Wow. All right. So, yeah, you got a lot of haters, a lot of Patriot haters out there, but it is what it is. Now, on the halftime show, where do you weigh in on that?
I would say a strong C-.
There you go. Nice.
Definitely, even the wishy-washy going into it. The various different stars sort of not saying they're going to be in it. Then there's sort of Adam Levine sort of stepping up saying going to be in it. And it definitely sort of pales in comparison when you look at sort of past performances. It was funny. I was actually looking at some of them on the weekend, and Prince's performance a number of years ago was just still probably one of the best performances ever, and Springsteen, and so it was pretty lackluster, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of agreed. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. It was like one of those ones we're not going to remember within 2 years. Except for to say
it was a good time to hit the bar and get a refill for sure.
Yeah, it was a potty break, no question about it. All right, let's talk about the ads, because for a lot of people, it's not even about the game or the halftime show. They just want to watch the ads. So tell me what you thought in terms of winners and losers.
Yeah, what's interesting about that, there was actually a great study out from Kantar that talked about what people are actually really looking for out of the Super Bowl game, and actually less than half are actually there to watch the game, and about a quarter are really looking for the commercials. And then you have the halftime show and the other things sort of fall in a distant third. And really it all comes down to entertainment, right? Did it entertain me or did it not, right? So, and you've had over the last few years, I think sort of this magic formula has really been kind of celebrities and humor, right? And if you can kind of get those two things sort of right, you're going to hit some home runs along the way. I'd say the last couple of years, though, have been absolutely dominated by technology, and this year was no doubt more of that. So I thought the Microsoft All Play, played up on not just the technology, but definitely sort of the social cause. I loved the Amazon Alexa this year. The Amazon, I think this is their 4th year now of advertising in the Super Bowl. Their whole idea of kind of mixing celebrities and humor and sort of these bad ideas using the Alexa, I thought was brilliant.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. There were several different, I'm sure you're going to get to some of them, celebrity-filled ads. The Alexa ones were my favorite.
Yeah, and well, this is the whole thing. So the misses, I'd say, also have celebrities in them as well. So some people talked about, a lot of the experts were sort of weighing in around Pepsi being sort of a hit and a miss. It was kind of a bit of both, right? And I think it really comes down to, some people love the Cardi B and Steve Carell, but a lot of people didn't. We actually did a really quick poll on the lead up to it, and we actually put head-to-head the Budweiser, Pringles, and Pepsi ads. And it was interesting. I actually thought Pringles would have probably led the way because it was a pretty innovative commercial this year using technology and humor. But Budweiser won, and it was by a long shot as well. And part of it is dogs and horses together. People love dogs and people love horses, so I think that was a big part of it. And then they had a really interesting social cause about sort of using renewable energy. So that was another big trend. You did see many brands kind of opting into the sort of social causes this year as well, which can be as tricky as using celebrities for sure.
Okay, so what about the Stella Artois, Carrie Bradshaw, and the Dude commercial, Big Lebowski kind of throwback?
Yeah, big talk today for sure. You see a lot of people sort of weighing in saying they loved it. I thought it seemed to be, I think what worked about it was because it seemed to be so out of character for both of the characters, right? And they even made fun of that in the actual spot itself.
Right.
So, as a viewer, it was entertaining and kind of set me sort of back a little bit because it was so out of character for the celebrities. I mean, I really think getting that magic mix of the right celebrity with the right message, with the right humor, it's a delicate balance. We actually do a lot of testing now of just the celebrities to pick the right celebrity before they even go into the commercial itself now, where it used to be, I think it was mainly driven by creative directors and ad agencies saying, hey, we really like this person, and they'll put in it. Now it's a pretty interesting process that organizations go through around selecting the right celebrity.
Yeah, interesting. Steve Mast on the phone with us from Methodify. We're breaking down some of the Super Bowl commercials. So listen, I got to ask you about the more serious commercials too, because there were several, and the standout one that I'm thinking about was the Washington Post ad. What do you think of that kind of process of going that direction, something really serious?
Yeah, and again, it sort of comes down to what I said at the beginning, the entertainment factor, even on a serious message like that, and like the Budweiser one I mentioned as well. In fact, most people highlighted that it was the renewable energy and the idea of taking on sort of the social cause was the reason why they really sort of connected with that ad. So, you can't go wrong with the Washington Post. They had Tom Hanks, who doesn't love Tom Hanks? I mean, he's pretty much so right across the board, whether you're male, female, all age demographics, pretty much so everybody can sort of relate to Tom Hanks. And then super powerful lines and a super powerful subject, right? So I think it comes back down to when you're taking on these social causes where, really know the audience and recognize that you may end up, probably maybe alienating part of your audience, but that's okay if you're really going to go down that path. I think Gillette, most recently outside of the Super Bowl kind of went into that.
Yep.
Other organizations that are really excellent was obviously Nike, but Nike decided that they were okay with that. If someone was going to burn their shoes, they were okay with that. But Pepsi trying to wade into that, back a year and a half ago, and with their whole social cause, and it completely backfired, right? So, and even last year with the Super Bowl, there was, I think it was Chrysler or Dodge Ram, which was a Chrysler product, used a Martin Luther King speech, which, was actually quite a powerful speech, and it was quite impressive how they connected the dots, but, people quickly panned them on social media. So you need to be prepared for the backlash. Again, it just comes back down to using technology, using platforms these days, connect with your audience, test ahead of time, and be okay that if you're going to alienate some of your audience, go forward with that and lean into that. Be okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, one last thing before I let you go, Steve, and this is the big question. Is it worth the money for that companies pay to do these ads? Do they see ROI? Is it worth it? Should they keep doing it? Or is it just like for fun?
Yeah, it's $5 million a crack, and literally 10 years ago it was around $2.5 million. So there's definitely been a hefty price tag on it.
Yep.
There is no other bigger stage, right? I mean, you have obviously the Olympics, but Super Bowl is a big, big stage. So is it worthwhile for everybody? No. Is there different ways that brands can capitalize on the platform? Absolutely. I mean, you used to say Skittles, for example, spent the money and bought big commercials.
Yeah.
This year, they actually put on a Broadway play during the Super Bowl. Actually, I think it was in the afternoon before the Super Bowl, and they didn't buy any spots. But the PR they got out of it, the fact that they were not included and they were doing something completely different, was pretty radical, right? So, and I don't know how much they spent with it, but I'm sure they didn't spend $5 million in terms of producing it. So
Right.
I do think it's worthwhile, but I think you have to be really aware of what you're going to get out of it. It's not about an instant return. It's about sort of building that brand, and you have to be really clear about that's the result.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, great to have your insight. We really appreciate it. Again, that was Steve Mast with Methodify. We'll post a link to all things Methodify on our show notes page at Dana Barrett.